Okay, so could you please brief me about yourself?
So, hi, my name is Sagar Patel. I am currently working with Coder Troop as a Java backend developer. I have been working with Coder Troop for last 3 years.
Okay. What all languages have you worked on?
So right now I'm working as a Java backend developer. So I use Java and Spring Boot framework. And then sometime if we have front end work, then we use JavaScript.
Okay,
And
so
I know also the SQL. Yeah.
so you have also quite little understanding of JavaScript.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Could you tell me what project are you currently working on? And if you could also, kind of draw an architectural diagram of that project, that would help me understand that project better.
So right now, so my company is a service-based company. So they
Mhm.
have existing e-commerce client. So I'm working for their one of them e-commerce client, Sports Check. It is a e-commerce website plus they have retail stores. So I am working as a Java backend developer. So they have a 3 layers of their web application: front end, back end, and database. So for the front end, we use JavaScript and Angular, and then backend we use Spring Boot and Java. And for the database, we use MySQL database and SQL. So we have we use microservices for manage a backend. So for microservice, we have a product service, then order services, then user service, inventory service. These services are microservices and they communicate each other, and they can also communicate with the client. So right now I'm working for a product and order services. So currently I'm working on one of right now they want to add one category in their catalog. And so right now I'm creating API for REST API for those for that category.
Okay, so you mentioned that you are using Spring Boot and Java. Could you tell me what version of Spring Boot are you on?
So right now we are using 1.7 Spring Boot version.
Spring Boot 1.7
Yeah,
and Java
Java we use 1.8.
1.8. So are you comfortable with writing lambdas, the stream APIs and all?
Yeah, I know very well about the stream API Lambda functional interface.
Okay, great. Uh, and so you've also mentioned that you are using the microservice based architecture.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a few advantages that we get using this microservice architecture instead of using the monolithic one?
So in a microservices, we create small services, and these services communicate each other, and they can communicate with the client directly, and they have their own task. And so if we want, they have their own task. So advantages of microservices is that if you want to redeploy any service, then you don't need to down whole web application. You just need to down only one services or related services, and you can redeploy. And we can also use different databases for each microservices, so it will increase performance of application. And it easy to manage because we separate all services. For example, if we have e-commerce website, we can separate the product service and order service, so we can easily manage.
So you said that we can have different databases for each microservices, but then that we can do in monolithic application as well, right? Like I can have 2, 3 different modules, and each module can use their own database. Like one class is using one DB and other class is using the other DB. So that is covered over there as well, right?
Yeah.
And part about the partial deployment. So take the scenario like in your case, you have order service and you have product service, and let's say you have user service, and you are making a deployment for order service. So now, meanwhile, if a user is coming to your website and he is trying to get details of his order, and since you are deploying, the service would be down. Then how would you handle this scenario? Like what will happen?
So for order, so if user want to order, service will be down, right?
Yes, because we are deploying order service, so it is down. So because like
So we
I
can
just
handle two way. We can create two instance like for order services. So we can down one instance and another instance will be on. So we can redeploy one instance at a time, and then when first one is finished, then we can redeploy another one. Otherwise, we have to down order services. So order related functionalities the user cannot access.
okay. Uh, and do you know any design patterns that we use in microservice?
I know the singleton design pattern.
Okay, what's that?
So in singleton design pattern, we can create only one instance of one class.
Mhm.
So we can save more memory instead of creating a new instance for each request. We can return same instance, so we can save some memory and we can improve performance of the web
O-
application.
Okay, any other design patterns specifically related to microservices that you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay, no worries. Uh, and one more thing about microservice. So you said like you had different services, product service and then user service. So tell me, if I want to like if one service is interacting with the other service, then how like so for a user, when he comes to your website, he
Mhm.
will only see one web page, and internally you might have different 5 6 microservices. Then how that communication happens?
So microservices can communicate each other. There are two ways: asynchronous way and synchronous way. In synchronous way, we can use a REST templates method that can send a request, and asynchronous way we can use message broker JMS. We can use web client, or we can use REST template as a asynchronous communication.
Okay, so REST template could be used both for async and sync.
Yeah, but we have to do for asynchronous, we have to do some configuration.
Okay, perfect. Uh, okay. So tell me if you have faced any or let's first talk about the security in your application. So let's say you have this product service, right? And you might be exposing some REST endpoints for other applications to consume. So then how were you making sure that only certain users with appropriate access can access the APIs?
So we use JWT token for our microservices security. So for when user come to our website and want to access secure resources, user has to provide credentials. So we take credential from the user, and with help of JWT we generate a token. We validate that credential, and then after that we generate a token and send it back to response. And then when the client when the user want to when user want to again want to try to what can I say, try to uh,
Access another page,
sorry,
maybe.
access another page, want to access another page, or secure resources,
Mhm.
it has to provide that a JW token. It will automatically add in a request header, and then from there we can fetch that JWT token, and then we have to validate if it's valid JWT token. If it's valid JWT token, then we can give access user to get data from
Okay.
database.
Okay, perfect. Uh, okay. Coming to core Java, could you like tell me all the four concepts of OOPS programming?
So OOPS means object-oriented programming. It's a mechanism that we can design program using object and classes. There are some concepts in OOPS. One is abstraction, then encapsulation, then inheritance, and object and class. They are main concept, and association.
Okay, could you explain each one of them?
So inheritance means one class can inherit all properties and methods from another class. Is called inheritance. Is a relationship, and the class that inherit all properties from other class is called child class, and other class called parent class. And there are multiple type of inheritance: single inheritance, then multiple multi-level, hierarchical, then hybrid. Association means we can
I'll like to interrupt you for a minute here. So with inheritance, you said like all the properties of parents would be inherited to child. So is it always the case, like every time whatever properties I'll define in my parent class, will they always come to my child class as well, child objects as well?
yeah.
All the properties?
Yes, all the properties can access child class.
Uh,
We can access all properties.
do you know like the different access modifiers?
Yes, I am.
What are those?
So access different. There are two type of access modifier: access modifier and non-access modifier. Non-access modifier are static, final, synchronized, and access modifier are private, default, public, and then protected. So if it's a
Okay.
private, then we cannot access a method or variable outside the class. If it's default, then it's within the package access level. And then if it's protected, then if it is outside the package through the subclass. And if it's public, then we can access variables and method outside the package too.
So yeah, like if we can, for example, you said that all the properties would be available to child class. So let's say if I have a class A in package A, so package A class A, and I have a package B, and I am creating class B extends class A. So my packages are different, but I'm extending my A class, and in my A class I have a private integer, let's say A. So can I access this in class B?
Outside the class, no, because it's a private, so you cannot access outside the class.
So then, like
We
you
have to
said,
use protected, right?
agreed. But then you said that all the properties of parent class will be available to child class. So
Yeah, if
like I
it's
can here
public, yeah, yeah. If it's public, then yeah, you can access the all properties.
so not always. It
Not
will be
always.
depending on access modifiers.
Access modifier.
Okay, got it. And what is so special about the static modifier?
So static we can apply to the variable methods, then static block or static inner classes. So if we apply with the static variable, then it will store in a permanent generation, a permanent memory, and we can access this variable with the class name, and we can access this variable in a non-static or static method directly. If you use static math, if you create a static keyword, if you use static keyword with the method, then you can get this method using class name, and you can directly call this method using class name. And then if you use static for block, then it will invoke before the main method invoke. And static, we can use static for in inner classes too.
Okay, okay. So I just wanted to ask this question. Let me quickly complete this. So I have a class A,
Mhm.
and inside that I have a static method. get random number, and it is returning math dot random. Okay, so we assume that it is returning a random number from here. Okay, and I have another method, get random number int. So just wanted to keep use a different name, and this is also returning a random number. Okay,
Okay.
now let me close this class. Let me create another class B, and inside this class what I am doing is I'm creating an object of A. Sorry. So let's say this class is B, and here I'm saying, come on. Never mind. So here I'm saying A is equal to null. Okay, and I'm saying A dot get random number, and I'm trying A dot get random number int. So until like what will be the exception that I'll get in this, or this will run properly?
This will not run properly because we have to create an object using a new keyword instead of null. And if you try to execute this code, it will throw a null pointer exception.
Okay, let me comment this line now.
Still, it will. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me see. So that static method we can access with the class name. We don't need any object. So
We
if
have
you
commented the static one. So let's talk about this one first. Like this is like the non-static one. This is the second method.
for the second method, it will throw because it is not a proper object because it's a null pointing to null.
Sorry.
So we cannot
So,
access that non-static method. But I'm not sure about that static we can access or not.
so you're not sure about this one, whether it
Yeah,
will
if you
run or it
use
will throw error.
if you use directly class name a dot get random number, then yeah, it will execute that method. But
Yes,
with
with it.
object, I'm not sure.
Okay, no worries. Okay. So what else? Yeah. So inheritance, I'm good. Keep going for the next part.
So for the oops concept,
Yes. After
so
inheritance.
there is a one concept association. So in association, we achieve a relationship between two classes using object without using extends or implements keyword. And there is another concept, encapsulation. So encapsulation means wrapping code and data together in one single unit. It's for example, capsule, it's mixed with the several medicine. To achieve encapsulation, we have to create all data member with a private access modifier, and we have to create a getter and setter method. This setter method getter we used to set value of variables and get the value of variables. And encapsulation actual the abstraction. So forget the another one. Abstraction we can, with help of abstraction we can hide the implementation and show the functionality to the user. There are two ways we can achieve abstraction: abstract class and in interface. We can create a abstract class using abstract keyword, and we can create abstract method inside the abstract class using abstract keyword. And this method has to implemented by child class. And in the interface, we can create interface using interface keyword. And interface we can have we can create abstract method. And if you create any variable, it is by default public static final. And after Java 1.8, we can before Java 1.8 we cannot give body to abstract method, but after 1.8 we can give body to method using default or static method.
Okay, so in an interface, should I also create the methods as abstract?
Yeah. No. If you create any method without, you don't need to mention the abstract keyword. If you just create any method, it's by default abstract method.
Okay, perfect. And could you also tell me about polymorphism?
So polymorphism, it means it's two word of Greek word, poly and morphis. Poly means many, and morphi means form, means many forms. It is mean that single action in many way. There are two different type of polymorphism: runtime polymorphism and compile time polymorphism. In a compile time formalism, we can create multiple methods we can create multiple method in one class with the same name with a different parameter, or changing the number of parameters. And it will JVM, so it will detect at a compile time so which method need to be called. So that's why it's called compile time polymorphism. And in runtime polymorphism, if two class has a relationship, and they have a same method in a child class and parent class, they have same method with the same parameter and same return type. Then if the parent class reference variable refer to child class object, and then if you call this method, the child class method will be invoked. And JVM will detect which method need to be called at the runtime. That's why it's called runtime polymorphism.
Okay, perfect. Uh, so um, okay, perfect. Could you also tell me or explain me what is the exception hierarchy?
Exception hierarchy. So the root class is throwable, and then exception is extend throwable class. Then in an exception class, there is a IO classes, the IO exception, then class not file exception, then runtime exception. In runtime exception, there is a number format, null pointer, then array index out of bound. In array index outbound, um, uh, array, sorry, yeah, index out of bound, and index out of bound, there is array index out of bound and string index out of bound.
Okay. Um, could you we have a try catch block, right?
Mhm.
And similarly, we have a try with resources block. Do you know what that is?
So try with resource is a new feature of Java 1.8. And so if you whenever we create any connection to the database, we write the close code in a finally, because we want to close that connection. But it sometime if they're in error, or something that connection is not closed, then it takes separate memory, and if it's not closed. So if you use with try with resource, then it's JVM responsibility to close that connection.
Mm, okay. And can I add anything as a resource in the try block, or there has to be certain condition that needs to be fulfilled for a resource to be applicable for that try block?
Not sure about that. Any
Do
use
you know the auto-closable interface?
auto closable interface? I know it's related to try with resources. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Uh, so you have also mentioned that you have worked with multi-threading. I read, I guess, in your resume, you have an idea about multi-threading as well.
Yes.
So do you know what is an executor framework?
Yes. So executor framework. So yeah, we should not create for new thread for new for each new request. It will take more resources and more memory. Instead of that, we can use thread pool executor framework. So in the executor framework, it's a group of threads that are waiting for a job, and then we can use multiple time these thread, and then whenever new request come, this request will pass it to trade pool, and then from there it tags will assign to trade. So there are classes and interface we can use to create a executor framework, sorry, trade pool. So there is a executors class that we can use to create a trade pool. There is three methods: new fixed trade pool, new schedule trade pool. Then there is a interfaces executor. There is a execute method to execute the task. There is a trade pool executor class, schedule executor service.
So,
These are
so
the
you have
interfaces we can use to execute our task.
yes. So you have mentioned that there are two kinds of thread pool. One was scheduled and the other one was fixed thread. Do you know what is the difference between these two?
So in schedule executor service, we can schedule our task. There is a service, there is a schedule method. We can schedule the task. So after a particular time, task will be executed. And in a this thread pool executor implement executor service interface, and then there are some extra methods we can use.
Okay. And like with respects to executor service, do you know what is a blocking queue? Blocking queues and non-blocking queue?
Blocking queue in executor service.
Yes. Like when we submit some tasks to executor framework, executor service, the task has to be stored somewhere, right?
I know about the future task.
That
Yeah,
is the types of task. But then let's say if you have a fixed thread pool and you are submitting 5 tasks, they have to be first get stored somewhere and then they will be executed by the executor service, right? So okay, never mind. It's fine. Uh, executor service. Okay. Uh, can you explain to me about the the string thread pool, string pool?
string pool. So we can create string by two way using string literal and string with new keyword. So
Mhm.
if you create string using literal way, then JVM first. So if we, for example, if we create string A is equal to Toronto and string B is equal to Toronto, right? So first, for the first A, JVM will check is there any Toronto available in string pool memory. If it's not available, then it will create a new object for new object in string pool. And for the second one, it will JVM again check the Toronto is available or not. If it's available, then it will return the same reference Toronto's object reference for the string B. So this string pool is inside the heap memory. It's a separate memory inside the heap memory.
Okay, and what will happen if I do new and then Toronto?
So if we use new keyword, then it will create two object. One JVM first create the object inside the Toronto. If it's not available, if it's available, then it will not create, and then it will because it's a new keyword. So if you use any object using new keyword, then at a runtime JVM again create the new object in a heap memory. So it will create two objects in heap memory and in if it's not available, then in a string pool too.
Always in string, like, so let's say I've just started my application and there is nothing in the heap memory. Heap
Hmm.
memory is completely empty. String pool is also completely empty. Now I'm doing string a is equal to a new string Sagar. Okay.
Mhm.
So what you're saying is it will first create in the heap memory, and then it will also
No,
create in
first
the.
it will create first in a string pool memory, and then after runtime it will create new object in a heap memory,
But
because we are
if
using new keyword. So
so it will always create in the string pool, and then if it is
no,
using
if
new
it's
key.
if it's exists, then it will not create.
No,
For
no, like
example,
in this scenario,
no,
when there
yeah,
is
it will create both.
we sure about this?
I recently read about this, so
Okay. Okay. Uh, and do you know what is like this concept of immutability in Java?
sorry.
Immutability. Do you know what
Uh,
is an immutable class?
yeah, I know the immutable class, and string is immutable, so we cannot modify or we cannot change the value of string.
So if I have an object and its value cannot be changed, we can call it as immutable.
Object, sorry.
So if I have a class A, okay,
Mhm.
how can I make it immutable?
So if you want to be immutable, then there are some rules that we have to follow. First, that we have to make class final. Then
Mhm.
second, we have to make all members private, all fields are private. Then we have to, if there are any mutable field, then we have to make it as a final, so nobody can change the value. Then we have to create only the getter method, so we can get only method, we cannot set the method. If you want to set method, it should be done through the constructor, and we should perform the deep copy instead of the shallow copy. These rules are we have to follow to create immutable class.
Okay. Uh, can you uh, so let me share the whiteboard again, and could you write code to create a thread in Java?
Yes. So I have to
Send,
share my screen
yes, either you can share your screen and open Notepad and just write how to create a new thread.
in Notepad. Can I use Eclipse or
Sure, go
in
ahead,
Note?
use Eclipse.
Let me share first. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I have to create. My computer is slow, so
No worries. If you have an existing Java project, a static main method, you could go ahead and do it inside that as well if you want.
okay. Let me.
I just add a new class over here, and that should do it. Yeah, any name should do. No worries.
So you want me to create threads?
Yes.
So we can create thread using thread class and runnable interface. So,
Okay.
so you want me to create both way or?
If you can.
Okay, so first I'll show you. So yeah, and extend thread. We have to run method. Now we have to create object this class.
That's fine. I just wanted to see how to create thread.
Okay,
So this is fine. Could you also do it now with using Runnable?
so for runnable,
Just update this code to
create a separate class. Okay, let's
and could you also tell me like what is the what is the advantages we can get if we use Runnable instead of thread
so
class?
yeah, so runnable is an interface, right? So if you use runnable, then we can implement multiple interface faces. But if you use extend, if you use thread class, then we can implement only the one class thread, right? Then runnable is a functional interface. So for that we can use lambda expression to we use lambda expression to implement run methods.
Okay. And do you also know what is callable interface?
So yes, so callable interface. So we can create thread using thread class and runnable interface, and both are provide run method. So in run method, one important feature is missing is that they are not returning. Run method is not returning anything. So for that we can use callable. So in callable we can return we can have return future that not available in a run method, and in a runnable we instead of run method we there is a call method.
Okay. Okay. And now, could you like tell me what is a hash map and how does that hash map works?
Mhm. So hash map is a part of the part of a collection framework. In a so you want me to so can you repeat your question please?
Yes, I also want to understand how hash map
Internally,
works. Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So hash map you use hashing mechanism. So internally, so when you use put method of hash map, it will in a hash map put method, and then we have to add key and value. If you want to add element, then in a key it will in a put method it will take key, and then it will convert into hash code. This hash code we cannot use as a index number because it's big number, it's a large number. So it will we have to it will make this hash code in a short form using by shifting 16 times, and it will get short number. So if it get like 2 or 3 or 5 index number, then it will create, for example, if it get two number, then it will on index number 2 it will create one node. In that node it will save hash code, key and key value pair, and it will also the save next pointer. So if it's the first element in that index, then it will pointing to null. If it's the second one, then the first one will pointing to the second one, and the second one pointing to the null pointer. And
Okay.
then
And
if
what happened?
you sorry
Sorry, good.
and if you want to remove any element, then we have to pass the key again. It will convert into hash code, and then it will get the index number after that by shifting 16 times, and then it will check in that index. If there is a multiple node, then it will compare value. It will compare the value of key and then find out the key and then return the element.
Okay. And do you know what is the load factor in a map?
Load factor, so it's for initial it's for the initial capacity for the S map. I think it's 16 or something.
Okay. Close enough. Uh, could you like quickly try and write a code? I'm pasting a some pattern in the chat window in the Zoom chat. Could you see if you could quickly try and write this? So it didn't come properly. Let me paste one more time.
Okay, it's a pattern, right? One,
Yes.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
One. Can use for loop. this one print 1, 2, 3, right? Now after that we want to make space. Okay, so first it will come with the 1, then come
Uh-huh.
here. I forget this logic. Okay, so it will be less than I, right? So start from the 1, 1 come and 2.
Save this.
Oh, 1 didn't print.
Close enough.
Okay, we have
Yeah,
to click one. Yeah, one small mistake I have.
it's fine. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
A little bit
So
different, right? 1, 1, 2, you want me to 1, 2, 3.
very minor change you have to do, and that this will start working.
You want me to do it?
No, it's fine. This is also fine. I just wanted to know how you will approach this problem. So I got that. Um, like, quickly going to the Spring, could you tell me what is this concept of dependency injection in Spring?
Dependency injection in a Spring.
Yes.
So dependency injection remove the dependency from the program code. It will use a setter or getter injection to inject the properties of the object, and it's help us to create loosely coupled application. Yeah, application.
Okay. And in a Spring application, so by default, my application will get started on the 8080 port. Let's say if I have another application on my system which is using 8080 port, how can I change the default port?
So if you use Spring, right?
Mhm.
So if you use Spring, then we have to use because it does not have embedded server like a Spring Boot. So we have to use separate Tomcat server, right? So for that, in the Tomcat server, there is a one option. There is a one file server.xml. In that, there is a connector port option that we have to change it with any port number.
And if assume this application was a Spring Boot application, then
So if it's a Spring Boot application, then it has an embedded Tomcat server. So in a application.property file, there is a one property we can mention. Property server.port property, and then we can assign any port number.
okay, perfect. Uh, could you tell me a few annotations that we use in a Spring application or in a Spring Boot application?
So in a Spring framework, we use aggregate request mapping, then aggregate model attribute, then controller, then exception handler, then controller advice. In the Spring Boot application, we use aggregate get put method for the aggregate get mapping, post mapping, then REST controller, then at the rate response body, at the request body.
Okay. Okay. That's enough. Like, yeah. Uh, uh, do you know what are RESTful web services and what all different HTTP methods are there?
So web services are used by two application to communicate and share data between them over the internet. So for example, for the client and server can communicate each other using web services. There are two type of web services: SOAP based web services and RESTful web services. So in a RESTful web services, there are some rules that we have to follow to create services, and we can use a JSON or XML or text format to send data in a REST APIs. And there are some methods we for the get method, post method, put method, delete method, and then there are some HTTP response code that we can use, like for 200 to 201, then 404 401. There are HTTP response status code.
Mm. Okay, that's good. Uh, so moving on to Hibernate, quick, could you like quickly tell me if I have an application and I want to start using Hibernate in it? I want to use an MySQL database and I want to configure Hibernate in my application. So what steps that I need to take care of?
So first, we have to create one Maven project. Inside the Maven project, in the pom.xml file, we have to add all dependency related MySQL and Hibernate. Then we have to create one entity class that we want to create a table in a MySQL database using entity annotation, then ID, editor ID, then a direct table. So if there are, if they have if it has a relationship another class, then we can use attribute one to one, one to many, many to many annotation. And then we have to create one Hibernate configuration file, that hibernate.config.xml file. Inside the file, we have to mention the all properties related to MySQL, like user ID, password, then dialect, then so SQL. Then we have to also map all classes, all entity classes. We have to map in Hibernate configuration file. And then we have in another class, in main class, we have to create one session factory, and inside the session factory we can get session. And in session there are some method we can use to save data and get data or create query for the database.
Okay, perfect. Uh, do you also know what are like different types of fetch types that we use in Hibernate?
So yeah, we have two type of fetch in a Hibernate, lazy fetching and eager fetching. So by default, get method use lazy fetching. Lazy fetching means if the class has a relationship of another class, then if you want to get this, if you want to get a current class object, then it will not create query for another class object. So it will create only when you use that object. For example, if we have a employee class and address class, so every employee class has a reference of address class. Then if you get object of employee class from the database, then it will create query only for the employee class object. You will not create query for the address class. For the address class, it will create only when we use it. So if you use eager loading, then it will create query for both, even if you do not use the address class object.
Okay. I have also seen that you have used JUnit.
Yes,
So which version of JUnit are you using? 4 or 5?
we use five latest one.
5.
Yeah.
Jupyter. So 5 is
Uh,
Jupyter. So yeah. So could you like tell me if you know some examples, some benefits of using the JUnit 5?
JUnit 5, there are some more annotation like at the rate test, at the rate,
Test
at the
was
rate.
there in test was there in 4 as well, right?
So I'm not sure about that.
Okay, no worries. And so there are two methods, before class and before each or before. So do you know what is the difference between these two methods?
So before each means it will this method will execute before each test, and then before all means before all, right?
Yes,
So before all means it will execute only execute that
before.
method only.
Sorry, with JUnit 4 it was before all. With JUnit 5 it was before class.
Mhm. So if it's before all, then it will execute only one time
And any
before the all testing, before all test method.
and do you know like if I can use non-static instances inside the before all method?
So non-static.
Instances. So if I have a non-static variable or something non-static, can I use it in before all method?
Before all method, I think so. You can use it.
Okay. Uh, okay.
So JUnit we
Yeah.
mostly use for the unit test cases and integration test cases for Spring Boot application.
Yes. Yes. Just so I guess that was pretty much it that I wanted to cover. Uh, yeah. So I'm good from my end. Okay. So if nothing else, then we can wrap up the call. And it was a pleasure talking to you.